voting on our new secretary till next week. I don't know if we have, I don't know what the bylaws say as far as how many members we have to actually cast that vote. Do you happen to know, Philip? Okay.
Be on the safe side.
And just for the,
We may have.
well, if we have it by the end of the meeting, we'll go ahead and do that vote at the end. As some of you may already know, we have to replace our secretary because I think she's actually leaving the health department. I know for a fact we have Wanda Simon as a name to replace her. And at the end of the meeting, we'll bring forward any more names that you may have. I see we're all family today, no guests in here today. So I'll go straight to a quote I received. It says, poet Matsuo Basho said, "Do not seek to follow in the footsteps of the masters. Seek what they sought." By participating in Toastmasters, we aren't trying to copy last year's world champion of public speaking and other speakers or leaders. We're seeking to grow and to sharpen our skills in much the same way that they have. And keep sending those quotes to me. I'll share them with you in the order in which I get them. Let's all stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a few schedule adjustments for today. I'll be leading the table topics instead of Wanda Simon today. And evaluation of speech 3 instead of David Rudney that we have on the agenda, who is actually replacing Wanda Simon. I'm sorry, I'm doing table topics instead of Barbara Williams today. And Wanda Simon was supposed to be doing evaluation of speech 3. Then David was supposed to fill in for her, but he's not going to be able to make it today. So Dana Hill has graciously accepted to pull double duty today, the odd counter and the evaluation of speech 3. And I'll turn you over into the hands of our Toastmaster of the day, Ms. Helen Ticey.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And to my fellow Toastmasters, I want to, at this time, acknowledge our timer, which is Gloria Bastidas, our grammarian, Tanisha Richardson, and our odd counter, Dana Hill. For our joke master today, we have Betty Watts, who has worked in injury prevention for 16 years. Let's welcome Betty.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Well, did y'all hear the one about the woman who went into her financial, decided she was going to invest in taxes? That was the only thing that was going to surely go up. Thank you.
Thank you for that lovely joke. That was so funny. Now we'll have our word of the day by Tanisha Richardson, our grammarian.
Our word for the day is spoonerism. Spoonerism is a transposition of usually initial sounds of two or more words. An example of this includes, well, for example, children will be delighted by John's use of wordplay in the play Balcony, including the spoonerism of sighing flossers for flying saucers. So instead of Tanisha Richardson, an example of spoonerism would be Ranisha Richardson. Word for the day is spoonerism.
Wow, I don't know how many are going to be able to use that word today. Okay. Our first speaker will speak on Oh, no. Do we need an explanation of the our counter? We don't, do we? Our speech number 1, what's on the East Bank? And that will be by Majida. Majida.
Life is short. Live it. Anger is bad. Let go of it. Fear is a mind killer. Face it. Memories are sweet. Cherish them. I feel like I feel like I'm in one of those fear factors, and I have to face it for 6 whole minutes. A coworker who shared the office with me for 2 years said after I told her I was going to visit my relatives and friends back home, she said, "Yeah, right, you're from Jordan. Does it have anything to do with River Jordan?" And after 2 years, she finally related them together. So, River Jordan, what does it mean to you? Anyone? When you hear the word River Jordan, what does it mean to you? Okay. Okay, River Jordan is where Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist. And it's a dry river right now. You can barely see any water in it. It runs into the Dead Sea. And can you tell why they call it the Dead Sea? I mean, from the name, you can tell. Okay, Dead Sea. There's no life in it, exactly. There's no fish in it. And it's actually the lowest point on Earth. It's 400 meters below sea level. And why there is no life in it? Any guess?
Salt?
It is very salty, and it has lots of minerals, and I'm sure you can find them and buy them online. So you can guess now what's on the east bank of River Jordan. It's Jordan, and that's where I'm from, and that's where I was born. Okay, and since most of you is not familiar with the area, that's why I chose to talk to you about it today. I'm sure all of you hear the news these days about the Middle East and what's going on in the area. You've heard about Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, and now Syria, and Yemen, of course. And Jordan is kind of in the middle of all these countries. Syria on top of us, Egypt south of us, Iraq and Saudi Arabia to the east, and Palestine or Israel is to the west bank of River Jordan. And that's actually where my ancestors are from. They're from Palestine, and they fled They fled from Palestine in 1948 when the Jewish people invaded their country and occupied it. And everybody, I mean, most of the countries around Jordan, they fled to Jordan because it is the safest area. It's the safest country in the area. Palestinians, they fled to Jordan. Lebanese fled to Jordan. Egyptians, and now Syrians. So it's a very diverse country right now. Like I said, it is very diverse, and all these countries, they speak the same language, which is the Arabic language, and each country has its own dialect, and it's totally different. And sometimes when we sit on a round table, it's hard for us to communicate in Arabic because of all these different dialects. So we prefer to speak in English, which is somehow funny for me. And they say Arabic and Chinese are the two hardest languages on earth. And I would say it's hard because we write from right to left, and we open our books from right to left. And our letters shape it depending on where it falls in the word. Write it differently than when it And it's hard to pronounce some of our letters. Like, try to say ha. I mean, you can try it. Or ga, or ha, ha. These are some letters. So it's hard to pronounce it and it's hard to write it. So it's kind of, I mean, it's definitely one of the hardest languages. And it's so hard to speak the street language. I mean, you can possibly learn the official language, but it's hard to speak the street language. And we do have Petra, one of the 7 wonders in the world, which is a city carved in the rose stones. Our famous dish is called bansaf, which is rice, big chunks of lamb meat with specially made yogurt on the side. And I'm sure you've heard of the falafel patties and hummus, which you can find everywhere nowadays. And we have all kinds of restaurants, Japanese, Chinese, Indian, Mexican, you name it. We have Kentucky, Popeyes, Pizza Hut. And we wear exactly like this, if you ever wonder. People would ask me, do you wear exactly like this? Yes, we do. And one of the funniest questions I was ever asked was, where do you park your camel? I know I ran out of time, but I have to tell you this, that they just say, where do you park? Okay, I never saw a camel. Maybe the first time I saw a camel was on the top of a mountain in Rhodes Island, and I never rode a camel. So I hope you have a better idea now about Jordan and about me. And thank you for your time and for listening. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. And you know what? I forgot to introduce Majida. Majida is from the East, from the Middle East to the middle of the United States. She's a data analyst in the health statistics section who moved to Arkansas 8 years ago. And of course, her topic was what's on the East Bank. Our next speaker will speak on Scared to Death. She's been an employee, a state employee for 12 years, but has been with the Department of Health only 5. Let's welcome Nikita Caruth.
My fellow Toastmasters, when I say I am not feeling public speaking, that is the understatement of the year. I hate public speaking and scared out of my mind. Just standing in front of a group of people, it can be friends, family, co-workers, strangers, small group, large group. It doesn't matter. I just get nervous and try to avoid the room as much as possible. I joined Toastmasters because I needed and wanted to overcome my fear of public speaking. I remember when I received an email from my boss stating that I needed to put it on my calendar to attend. I thought no big deal because she always volunteered me for something, and she joined said, well. So I listened to the presentation and pumped myself up and said, yeah, I can do that. That shouldn't be too hard. It's just standing up in front of people that you've seen in the building, and it should be okay. But just the idea of when I saw everybody standing up, I said that I can't do that, which is weird because I love to talk. One-on-one, I can talk to you for hours and hours at a time. Not only that, I have a crazy life. I have 4 children, a husband, teenagers, so I have a lot of things going on. So when I joined and I had to do a few roles, I wanted to say as little as possible, especially on the evaluation. So whoever I evaluated, I wanted them to be just excellent so that when I get up, I don't have to say too much of anything. So when I sat and listened to everybody give wonderful speeches, and each I turned that page and looked over at that agenda and just prayed that my name was not on that agenda to do a. But last week, oh my God, when I saw my name, I panicked. And I couldn't think of anything to discuss. I didn't know what to say. My mind was blank. My heart was beating fast. And the first thing I said when I got back to the office is, Miss Ruby, I am not speaking. I'm going to quit. I'm not doing it. There's no way that I'm going to stand up in front of everybody and do a speech. She said, well, you paid your money, you might as well use it. No, I can forget the money. Which is crazy also because I'm cheap, very cheap. So, as you can see, I did get up and do my speech, and I thank Miss Ruby for making me do a speech. Even though I'm still so nervous about public speaking and got a long way to go, I am 1 inch closer to overcome my fear of public speaking. Thank you.
That was wonderful. You sounded like you had been doing that for years. Okay, our next speaker is speaking on culture shock, culture change. And she is a data manager and at the Tobacco Prevention and Cessation Program. She joined TPCP in February of 2012. Previous to that, she was coordinator at Asian Pacific Coalition for 4 years. She enjoyed working with the Asian community and youth in Arkansas. One thing that she says she learned is no matter how long Asian people live here, they still keep their own culture. Let's welcome Dee Shirley.
My public speaking either. 15 years ago, someone told me that I would not be able to come over here to study. And at first, I thought she's right because I don't think my family could afford me to come over here. But when I got home, I kept thinking in my head that whatever she said is not right. I can make it happen, and I did. 9 months later, I was here in the US. And I prepared everything that everyone told me I need to prepare to bring it over here. The important document, visa, passport, food, clothes, everything. But one thing that I did not prepare is to learn American culture. My first 3 to 4 months here in the US was amazing. I had fun because I surrounded with all international students. I don't have American friends at all. And my shocking began when I started going to the college. When I went to the college, I saw 2 men greet each other by doing this and that, and then say hi and then hug. I said, what's going on here? Men in my country, they don't hug. When they greet, they just do like this. Oh, shake hand. Shake hand is just formal. And then when I walked to the hallway, to the classroom, people kept saying to me, hi, how are you? I thought it's kind of weird because in my country, if you walk by somebody, you don't say hi, how are you? People would think you're crazy. And I thought, well, it's kind of nice that you don't know me, you want to know how I was. So I tried to answer, and they're already over there. And I said, I just thought, why bother to ask if you don't want to know? So the first semester is so amazing. I mean, so amazing to me. And then I had American boyfriend, who is my husband right now. the first date he picked me up and he say hi and he tried to hug me and I step back. What are you trying to do? And I said, I try to give you a hug. I said, why you want to give me a hug? You just know me 2-3 months. Because he said, well, this is American culture. I said, okay. So we talked and he explained some American culture to me. And when he gonna leave, I walk him to the door and I said, bye. And he said, no kiss, no hug? And I said, not today. And after I married, right now I realized that I will spend the rest of my life here in the U.S. So I have to accept or adapt the culture here. Right now, when I walk by somebody, I say hi and I ask, how are you? Sometimes I wait for the answer, sometimes I didn't. And when my friend come to visit me, I give them a hug. And when they say goodbye, I give them a hug. Thank you.
So much, Dee, for that wonderful lesson on culture. Next, we'll have our table topics discussion. And our table topics discussion today will come from our own president, our esteemed president, Nathaniel Noble.
I was asked this morning, well, the call went out this morning for someone to fill in for table topics, and I accepted. I didn't realize I was going to be the first one to accept, but it turned out I was. But as a table topic today, there's a movie that came out in about 1985 called Back to the Future. And it starred Michael J. Fox. People nodding their heads so they've seen it before. And the premise of this comedy science fiction movie was that Michael J. Fox took a car that it was a time machine fashioned into a car, or a car fashioned into a time machine, rather. And he went into the past, and some of his interactions with the people in the past, his parents and different people, affected life when he came back into his current time, and it affected him in funny ways. And I was wondering if you could go back in time and see that 16-year-old version of yourself, what would you say to yourself that you think would have a profound effect on who you are today? Ms. Betty Watts, what would you say to yourself?
Lighten up. It's not after all. That is how I would respond to that. When I was 16, I was not.
I'm going to keep the question on the table. I see James Hicks is already thinking about it. What would you say to the 16-year-old version of James that would affect him today? Thank you. What do you say, Miss Tanisha? What would you say to yourself at 16?
The basic
That's it, Madam Toastmaster, unless you want me to pick on one more person. Okay. Philip Borden, if you could go back to age 16, what would you tell the younger version of you?
It didn't work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're at the part of our topics now where we'll do the general evaluation. And is our general evaluator Eric Tedford? So what we'll do is okay. The general, well, I'll be the general evaluator and introduce the people who will come up next. So for the evaluation of speech number 1, Philip Borden.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, and now Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Majida. Great icebreaker speech. I enjoyed it. I think beginning with your speech title, just seeing that in the agenda, what's on the East Bank, it got me interested. I was looking forward to hearing the speech just from looking at the agenda, so I think you did a good job with that. You made some really good statements at the beginning of your speech. I didn't really catch how that tied in with, I kind of expected you to get back to some of that kind of content, and I don't know that you really did, but the rest of your speech was very interesting information about Jordan, the country that you come from, the language, the customs, and especially when you're talking about the language, you'll always have me interested in how different languages work and the adjustments that you have to make in learning English. I thought your information was very well organized in all the points that you went through. Everything had a sequence and was there for a reason. You also did a good job of not reading from your notes. You used notes, but you made good eye contact into getting each point across that you were trying to make. If I could look for maybe some things that you can keep in mind and maybe work on in future speeches, keep doing what you did as far as not leaning on your notes as a crutch and reading from them. But I noticed one thing that you did is when you would look back down at your notes for the next point, that's when you almost always said and worked that in. And we're trying not to ding people too heavily on an icebreaker speech, and that's fine. But that might be something that would take some work. That's just a Toastmaster skill, is I see this point in my notes, I know what I want to say, so I don't have to read from my notes, and I get to the end of that point, and I'm ready to make my next point, and I'm not sure what it is, and it takes me a second to find it. Just be careful not to use a word like or something that you would lean on. I would have almost liked for you to work, if you had time, I thought of a couple of things that I would have liked for you to work into your speech, but I know you didn't have time. One of those is maybe to use the title a little bit more, What's on the East Bank? We always hear, it seems to me like in the news, we always hear about the West Bank, the side that Israel is on. That's what's always in the news. In fact, I've wondered before, is the Jordan River the only river in the world that only has one bank? What is going on the East Bank? And you kind of filled in some of that information about some interesting things about the country of Jordan without specifically mentioning the speech title. The other thing I would have liked for you to do if you had more time is more information about yourself, your family, and you as an individual, but we'll just have to wait for future speeches to fill in that information. But overall, good job, and I look forward to future speeches from you.
Thank you, Philip.
Thanks.
We're running a few minutes ahead because we didn't take the 2 minutes that the general evaluator needed, and we didn't take the full 12 minutes for our table topic discussion. But that's okay, right? To evaluate our speech number 2, which is Scared to Death by Nikita Caruth, is James Hicks.
Master grammarian. I'm not grammarian. Evaluator. Was president, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Nikita. Did a great job. Scared to death, I understand. Anytime anybody gets up here to speak, it's nervousness, butterflies, but your speech was great. Points that I thought that you made that were really, not necessarily made, but they came across. I mean, you got a great speaking voice. You said you like to talk. I mean, it's obvious you like to talk. Some people, you get up and you hear talk, you can actually hear that they're nervous. You can hear the jitter in their voice. None of that was there with you. So, I mean, you did a great job, comfortable with that. The information disclosed, you told us a little bit about your family. You got 4 teenagers. Once you told us the age, that would have been great, especially for me. I've got young kids. Of the things possibly to look and possibly improving on, the speech was well thought out, but it was kind of short. I mean, probably wanted to provide a little more information, such as information about your family, your kids, possibly things that you enjoy doing. I mean, obviously nervous up here, but feel free, feel comfortable. We're all family, like I say, no visitors today. So, but all in all, overall, I think you did a wonderful job with the speech.
For that evaluation of speech number 2. Evaluation of speech number 3 will be given by Dana Hill.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and General Evaluator. I want to especially thank Dee. I thought your speech was so engaging that I had a lot of trouble being able to write on this. I actually had to, as other people were speaking later, had to finish writing on here, so I don't know how accurate it is. I wanted to tell you about your strengths first. You had very, very good eye contact with everybody in the audience. I noticed you looking here and there, everywhere. I noticed very good eye contact, and you smiled a lot, and that right there engaged everybody from the beginning. You were very open and friendly. I could tell that you were very prepared for your speech. You didn't look at notes. You had an obvious beginning and end. You started it about your culture, about the adjustments to the culture here. Then you gave an example of that, and then you kind of ended it with how you kind of had to learn how to adjust to that. So it was very obvious that you had a beginning, middle, and end to your speech, which always is a good thing. I'm the all counter, so I don't get any things on my ums today. Okay. At first, you did just barely looked a little nervous to me at first. We all can relate to that. When I gave my speech a couple of weeks ago, I totally missed one whole section of my speech because I was nervous. Forgot the speech, and then I had to kind of revamp and go back. But you didn't appear you got right on track. After the first few words, you went right into it, so that was awesome. You had great use of humor and sincerity. And I think sometimes when we give speeches, we're not always very sincere. And when we aren't sincere, people don't relate to us as well. But you were like an open book sharing with us your experiences. I had a really hard time finding anything negative to say, actually. At first I thought, well, she's standing behind the podium and she's not using her arms very much, and then you kind of stepped out and did something. If I had anything to add, because you did know your speech so well, is that you might use that movement around the room. I mean, you were already advanced enough where you had completely had that speech in your mind, so you might just use a little more body language and hand movement and move around the room a little bit more. And you didn't use all your full time. And because you didn't, I mean, we always worry about going over, but because you didn't, I think we were also shortchanged just a little bit because we only found out just one little segment of how you had that adjustment in your culture. So next time, maybe we can get a little bit more about you. It was very interesting, and I wanted to hear more about what your culture was about. Overall, I think you did a fantastic job, and it really didn't seem like your first speech at all. So apparently you've had a little experience before. Thank you so much for doing that with us today.
Thank you, Dana, for that wonderful evaluation of Dee. Now we will have the grammarian's report.
I didn't have too many grammar corrections, but the ones that I did have were for speech 1. First, I would like to start off by saying everyone did a great job. I mean, everything was great, and the whole day has been great. You all probably correct me on my grammar, but anyway, for speech 1, it was stated, can you tell why it is called Dead Sea, instead of can you tell why it was called the Dead Sea. A next thing that I noticed, so you can guess now River of Jordan, instead of so you can guess now that the River of Jordan. Everybody, I mean, it's very diverse country right now, instead of it's a very diverse country right now. We prefer to speak in English instead of we prefer to speak English, and that can go either way. Our letters shape different instead of our letter shapes are different. Speech 2, this one's really cute. When I say I'm not feeling public speaking, I just get nervous. It's no big deal. Use that instead of that. One-on-one, I could talk to you for hours and hours. Stated few roles instead of few roles. First ding instead of first thing. For speech number 3, one thing I did not prepare is American culture. Instead of one thing I did not prepare for is American culture. Shake hand is formal, instead of to shake hands with someone is formal. I thought it kind of weird, instead of I thought it was kind of weird. I don't know. And this is the cutest part I like. When he gonna leave, he said, instead of when he left, he said, or he stated. Sometimes I wait for an answer, sometime I wait for an answer, sometime I didn't, instead of sometimes I wait for an answer, sometimes I don't. And that's pretty much all that I had today. It's kind of difficult, but it was great.
Thank you, Madam Grammarian. Now we will have the the AHA counter report. Hmm.
And the speakers, I did.
Okay. And the timers report.
Hello, Toastmasters. My report is the easy one. It's just press the button. So I was, fine with that. But it was so interesting to hear all of you. And at one time, I was almost I forgot to do it. And this is the report for the speeches. For Majida, 6 minutes and 25 seconds. For Nakita, 2 minutes and 53 seconds. 3 minutes and 48 seconds. Nathaniel for the table topic, 3 minutes and 57 seconds. For the evaluators, Philip, 3 minutes and 20 seconds, 3 minutes, 20 seconds. Jane, 1 minute and 33 seconds. And for Anna, 1 minute and 59 seconds.
Thank you, Gloria, our timekeeper. Okay, this is the end of our meeting, and I would like to thank those who all made this program successful, and I'd like to turn control of the meeting back over to the president.
I want to say thanks again to our Toastmaster of the day, Ms. Helen Ticey. She had to adapt and overcome in a few sections today, and she did well adapting. And that's what it's about, adapting and still continuing forward. We have no guest today for comments. Is there any club business we need to discuss today? Philip, do you think we should go ahead and table the discussion of the secretary?
We have 13. 13 out of 20.
Okay. I know of one name to come forward for a possible replacement for our secretary, our outgoing secretary, and the name would be Wanda Simon. Do I have a motion to entertain Wanda Simon as our possible secretary? Have a second? All in favor of Wanda Simon becoming the HealthMasters secretary for the remainder of the year, say aye. Any opposition? Any opposed? The ayes have it. Wanda Simon is now our official secretary. Make sure we get that note to her so she can take notes next time. If you turn over your agenda this week, we see who's on tap for our next meeting, August 6th meeting. And as usual, if you know you're not going to be able to make it, make sure we get note to our Toastmaster of the day or one of the officers, and we make sure we get that information to the Toastmaster as well. Is there anything else we need to discuss? Yes, ma'am. You sure can.
I was just about.
If you get an email to the Toastmaster, he's the one that would actually make up the agenda for that week. But that will be David Grundy for next week. So thanks for stepping forward. So that means we'll need a number 3 evaluator as well.
You have a third evaluation.
Perfect.
Just didn't have a-
Okay, perfect. Anything else we need to discuss? Our meeting is adjourned. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Maybe just a reminder.
I know David would know more about that than any of the rest of us. Is there, I just,
There's a makeup.
okay. We'll make sure that email goes out again this week, though. Anything you want to add? I know we were told that they would actually record our speeches if we're standing at the podium. So going forward, I don't know how we want to handle that. I know we tend to move around, so I don't know how far of a range the camera will be able to pick up, but we can, I guess, play that by ear as we go. But that's available for those who want their speeches recorded. Anything else?
The audio.
The audio bit.
The audio probably would.
Right. It might be more problem than it's worth. We'll get to that. Because I think it's better sometimes when you actually move as opposed to being locked behind this podium and having to say a speech where it's getting recorded and you're locked behind the podium. I think we lose a little bit of dynamics of what we're trying to do. But we'll discuss that further. Anything else? All right. Our meeting is officially adjourned.